So, good evening from a dark Wirral tonight. It's just gone 25 to 11. I'm up, just sitting in the easy chair in front of the television, doing a little bit of work on the laptop. And just come online to talk about a couple of articles that have come up that I think deserve a bit of airtime. And people need to be more aware of them. So the first one is from Energy Live News, and it's called EPC Rules Could Devastate Holiday Lets. Now, this article is specifically about Southwest holiday homes. However, the wider implication is to serviced accommodation, and I think specifically rent-to-rent serviced accommodation. So what they're saying here is, holiday let owners in Southwest have told the BBC proposed energy efficiency rules could force many to shut down as retrofitting older properties becomes too costly. Now, we all know as the investors that by 2028 or after 2028 new tenancies need to achieve a C, and then you have till 2030 to achieve the C rating for all properties. There is and there was and there always will be exemptions. However, you have to jump through many hoops to get to the exemptions, by the way. Anyway, what they're talking about is mainly stone cottages here, and being older properties. So the industry leaders say the impact could be widespread. Alistair Handyside, it's a good name, isn't it? Chair of the Southwest Tourism Alliance added, quote, "You're asking people to spend 3 years of profit in advance in order to continue to trade. It's too expensive. It's going to happen too quickly. So we think that a lot of people finally close the door." He warned the knock-on effects will be significant to the wider visitor economy. If we remove a lot of bed stock, we remove the ability to live in the area. Now, this corresponds as well to rent-to-rent at serviced accommodation, because while you maybe not rent to a lot of tourists, we rent to contractors. Yeah. So if you've got to get to a C and you're doing rent-to-rent at serviced accommodation, you are not going to spend up to £15,000 on something that's not your property. I don't care if you're going to make some profit out of it. It's too long to recoup the profit. So you lower the housing stock, this short-term housing stock in the area, which means contractors do not have access to it, which means they then have to rely on hotels, which are more expensive, which pushes their prices up, which increases inflation, which increases the price of whatever they're being contracted to do. You know, come on, governments, joined up thinking. So, and I think a lot of rent to SA providers aren't aware of this, to be honest with you. Are you a rent to SA provider? Are you aware of these changes? Are you aware of that potential impact? Consultation's now closed, by the way, so you can't consult on it anymore. The government are doing their little bit to have a think about it. But think about this. If you've got 4 holiday lets or short-term lets and they're a day, remembering that, this follows on to my other article in a minute, I want to comment on, you could have to spend up to £15,000 to get them to a C. That's £60,000 on potentially property you don't own. You're not going to do it, are you? So that's pretty much, I mean, they got a quote from the spokesperson from the Department for Energy Security Net Zero, which has this fantastic acronym of DESNZ. We have consulted widely on our plans for private rented homes to achieve Energy Performance Certificate C or equivalent by 2030, including those representing short-term letting industry. Notice how we said short-term letting, not holiday let. It's going to include serviced accommodation. The consultation is now closed. The government says it will consider evidence received before setting out on its position. So I think the question there, are you doing short-term lets, whether it be holiday lets, serviced accommodation? Are you aware of these potential changes? What are you doing about it? Anyway, I'll just skip to the next article. It is actually linked to it. And this one is come from the Mortgage Introducer magazine. And it's basically an article by a fellow called Rommel Lanteau, and I hope I pronounced that right, I'll try my best. And his article starts with, the Property Mark, an industry body for property agents, has urged the UK government to implement upcoming energy efficiency rules for rental properties on an individual basis, warning that sweeping measures could place undue pressure on landlords and destabilise the rental market. Now, I can already see a problem with that statement. Can you? The problem is, to do it on an individual basis, there is no infrastructure there to do that. The infrastructure that will be needed to do all these cases, imagine how many thousands and thousands of homes on an individual basis, will be massive. And it would take a decade or so to put it in place. So doing it on an individual basis, I don't think is ever going to happen, because the amount of do you imagine the backlog? We talk about backlogs now in courts and stuff like that. You imagine the backlog that would cause. And then you're going to have to put interim measures in place while the backlog's being dealt with and your case is being heard, etc. Responding to government consultation on proposed changes to the energy efficiency regulations, the organisation highlighted feedback from 350 property professionals and roundtable discussions across England and Wales, led by the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. I'll use that acronym again, DSNZ. So it seeks to revise regulations governing how landlords improve energy performance on rental homes, includes potential changes to the Energy Act 2011, which governs all EPCs. Yeah. While Property Mark said it supports initiatives, as we all do, to improve the energy efficiency of housing stock, it stressed targets must be feasible. Correct. The membership body argued the government's approach must reflect differences in property types at market values and landlord finances. If you're a small landlord, that's a massive hit to take. The trade body expressed concern that the proposals could lead to major disruptions. Many landlords said it would face high costs under the plan to raise the maximum spend required before exemptions can be granted from £5,000 to £15,000. That's a £10,000 raise. That's unbelievable. Citing feedback from a large agency in West Midlands, remember these are letting agents and etc., estate agents, Property Mark said the 15,000 threshold would most likely push many landlords out of the market. So right, I just had a portfolio come across my desk the other day, someone looking to sell it. 35 properties. Out of those 35, I think 5 was C's, the rest were D's. You do the maths on that one. 30, 150, £450,000 potentially needed spending on energy performance certificates. I'm not saying it cost that much to each one, but potentially that's what we'd have to spend to get them up to standard. So, yeah, two right landlords are thinking about leaving the market. And that caused massive withdrawals of stock, and we've already know there's a massive shortage of rental stock anyway. So, why make it worse? Property Marks wants to see more efficient homes, as we all do, but the targets must be realistic and achievable, reiterated Timothy Douglas from Property Mark, head of policy and campaigns. We have long said the UK government must do more to understand the finances of landlords, what I've said before, and introduce measures that take into account diverse nature of property types across England and Wales and the private rented sector. The government's current proposals require new EPC tenancies by 2028, all existing tenancies by 2030. Property Mark has recommended easing of the implementation timeline to give landlords more time to spread upgrade costs and allow workforce development in the energy retrofitting sector. Because what they also don't tell you is there's a massive shortage of that trade in the energy in the retrofit sector. So and what you're going to see is actually with past changes to EPC legislation, a mass of energy assessors will leave the industry because it's getting far too much complicated for too little money. So you're either going to have to charge a lot more money, or just they're not making the pennies out of it. You get people undercutting on this, and they expect you to do a lot more work for these energy performance assessments. So you might be you've got people doing 2-bed flats, 3-bed houses for £35-40. There's no money in it. When you take into account the amount of time you've got to spend at the property, you've got to measure all the windows, take the work, and what people don't see is the work you do at home, the research from building control, fencer, etc., and the working out. And then if you get audited and they decide it's wrong, you've got to go back through it again. Massive amount of work for very little money. And I'm a qualified retrofitter assessor and EPC assessor. I'm seriously thinking that's enough for me. there's lower hanging fruit for me to make money off. So the organisation also called for financial support and incentives. So yeah, how about giving us tax breaks, grants, etc. How about an initiative to train these people up that we needed in the retrofit industry? Anyway, so that's my little rant for today. It's all around EPCs, which is what I'm qualified in, and I have an insight into the industry. And these changes will happen whether we like it or not. The consultation, I think I may have said this before, I always see it as soft market testing. The reason being is I used to work for a local authority and they would do consultation exactly the same as what the government had done here. You do all the round tables and stuff like that. And all the questions are geared to get you to a certain answer. Check them out. This is legit. So they're geared to push you to get the answer they want. And they will skew it till they get the answer they want. Now, I call it soft market testing because also what they're looking at is what can we do that stings the least that people accept easier than the rest and they won't kick back as much about. So that's why I call it soft market testing. That's what it is to me. Anyway, have a think about those articles. Comments put some comments down below if you want. I'm going to put a link to my podcast. I've got a podcast called Efficiency in Property Investing. New episode out is all about loft insulation wise and what to do and how to get the most benefit from it, including your EPC side of it. So please like, subscribe and share. Free to share, but means a huge amount to me. I'm so grateful for all that support. Anyway, have a think about what I said. The links for my podcast in the comments below. Enjoy the rest of whatever's left of your evening. Keep moving forward and don't let the bastards grind you down. See you next time.